Hey, it's Beth here, episode 543. I've got to give you a baby cuddling update. So I went in for my first shift on Thursday, and the system's kind of down there. There's been a hacking. So the person wasn't there. I just go down to the emergency room, and nobody's there, but this lady comes out, 76 years old. Vietnam vet, nurse, knows the ropes. She looks at me, she goes, and I'm limping because last Sunday I delivered x-rays on pieces of paper to departments for 3.5 hours. So I blew out a ski injury that was 30 years old. I hadn't heard from it in 30 years. So anyway, she looks at me on Thursday because it's just not great. She's go, like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? I'm like, well, I'm here to volunteer. She goes, how old are you? I said, 70. She said, come with me. She goes, I'm older than you are. Come in my office. We go into her office, and because there's been a breach and everything's back to paper, everyone is talking to her because she knows paper, because she was working in the 70s. So she's like Queen Bee now. And she told me, I told her my whole story. She said, look, I'm going to put you in this toy closet and you can clean toys, and I'm going to get you a chair and you can sit on it. And then she said, these are the words that just made me so happy. She said, you can go hug, cuddle babies, play with them, do whatever you want in ICU all day long. You can come in anytime you want. They need it and you need it. I said, yeah, I know. I don't think I'm ever going to be a grandmother. She said, you can be a grandmother here. Just go play with the babies, be with the babies, sing to them, do whatever you want, anytime you want. And you'll be in the toy closet here for 3 hours. You go upstairs right afterwards. So that's my job. I clean Legos and Matchbox cars for 3 hours. Oh my gosh. One thing was a little bit rough. Do you remember that go fishing game with all those little tiny fish? I have to clean out every single fish's orifices, all of it. I have to get something in there and clean out every speck. So actually it did take 3 hours. And the manager came to see me when I was cleaning the counter. I have never looked so good in my life. I'm smooth sailing from here on out. It's just smooth sailing. I'm going to be able to do what I want when I want to. I'm going to put my uniform in my car. I'm going to have it available at all times. Even if I just have an hour and a half on some day, I'm just going to run over there. And I'm just going to cuddle some baby who just wants to be cuddled. So that's the happy ending I was looking for, and I got it. Now, so I've got 2 weeks of news hounds because I don't know what happened last week. Oh, yeah, I was in the hospital injuring my knee. So that's over. It's almost 90% feeling better. Last thing I need to do is get one of those operations that everybody is getting in our age group. It's like knees, hips, they all just disintegrate in your 70s. I don't know why, but they do. So just to be sitting in a chair cleaning Legos is the perfect job for me. And I think she also liked that I wasn't going to be talking to anybody. I think she wants me with babies and Legos so I don't get in trouble, which is fine. It's fine by me. So perfectly happy. Okay, so last week in the obituaries, which is like the riveting section of the paper for me, this woman named Mary Wells Lawrence died. She was a trailblazer on Madison Avenue. She was huge in 1966. She should have been in the Mad Men TV show. She got Braniff. She got Benson and Hedges. She got everything that anybody, Hertz, Rent-A-Car, Philip Morris, Schweppes, Cadbury, Ford, Procter & Gamble, and IBM, and that's just the beginning. And she got them. She was the head of this big company. No, she wasn't the head. She was working very hard at this big company. She brought in all these huge clients. She asked the guy when he was leaving if she could be made president. And he said, no. He said, We're not going to win any acceptance if you're president. You can do all the work of a president, but I've got to put a man there. She was like, look, she wasn't even reading Gloria Steinem. That's what she says. This just bothered her. And so she started her own firm with this Mr. Rich and Mr. Green. They went crazy. They got all these big clients. That's when they went soaring to the stratosphere. And I just think that madman, John Hammett, would have been hysterical if this little woman, and she's little and she is cute, really beautiful, had this other agency down the street that was stealing things from him. That would have been so much fun. And she was the boss of her firm. She went on, she went on, she worked, she lived everywhere. This is another reason I admire her. She had a beautiful apartment in New York. She had a home in the south of France. And a yacht in the Mediterranean. And then she moved to London to be near her daughter. She was friends with everybody. That was anybody. So that just would have been so funny if John Hamm, that big handsome guy, had this little beautiful blonde kicking him down the street, kicking him to the curb on all of the clients. Anyway, they missed it. But that should be a movie anyway. Okay, Julia Louis Dreyfus, who is funny. She was in Seinfeld, and she was the girl. Julie, what was her name? Oh, she had a good name. But anyway, she was the girl that was the friend to all the guys. She has a podcast called Wiser Than Me, and she interviews women in their 70s and older because she learns so much from them. And at the end of each episode, she calls her mother to debrief. Isn't that cute? So her mother listens to the podcast, and then at the end of the podcast, while it's still going on, she calls her mother and she says, what do you think, Mom? I love her now. She was also in VP. She's always great. But what a sweet thing to do for your mom. Her name is Judith Bowles. She's a lucky mom. She raised a beautiful girl. Okay, so this is a great book. I'm going to buy it. I just heard about it today. Ruth Reichel, she did Gourmet Magazine, and it was fabulous. And she wrote articles, and she traveled. Anyway, she has a new book out. Her other book was great. She writes about food and traveling. And in this one, she goes to Paris. And her mother, who died in this story, said, I'm going to leave you all my money, and it's not that much, and you have to spend every single bit of it in Paris on vacation, or you can't have it. So she makes her daughter, who's all pent up from her childhood, go to Paris, and she slowly relaxes into herself, and it's 1980s Paris, so it's probably more fun, and falls in love, and all these wonderful things happen. And I think, like, I've got something about Laura Linney. I think a Laura Linney could do this. She's older. She's like in her 50s and 60s. And she comes into her own in Paris. So it's like, you know, that little Emily in Paris, only she's older. And she's got a lot more scar tissue. She needs a lot more food. So I'm going to read it. I'll let you know if it's good. It's called The Paris Novel. Okay. I will read it. I'm going to buy it hardback. I'm going to give her $29 because she deserves it for her book. And I'll report back. I'm not good at doing this because I have a very difficult time reading, but I think this is only 200 pages, so I can do it. So I will do it. The book doesn't come with crayons, but I don't need them. So, okay, Laura Linney, she's got a new play. She's always on Broadway. This one is called Wildcat. It's a play about Flannery O'Connor's mother. Okay, so I don't know. The relationship began. Okay, so who knows? It's going to be great. She went to Juilliard. Of course she did. Her father was an amazing author. Very famous. He has a really cool name. Like Darius or something. Anyway, I can't remember. It doesn't really matter. But her father, she just calls him her father anyway, so we'll call him her father. Okay. Laura Linney's father was a great playwright. Okay, so the Bethesda Fountain in Central Park, this is what's great about this article. It was commissioned, is the first major commission that was made by a female artist, Emma Stebbins. It is so gorgeous, and it was built to commemorate freshwater that was brought into the city for the first time. And it was done by a woman. And that's just great. Okay, it's beautiful. I needed to know that. Then she's really good friends with Jean Triplehorn, who I haven't seen in years in anything. And she loves to go through the Hollywood Hills with her. And one day, she said that they found the love shack of Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. And they had to get out of the car and walk through this tiny, hidden alleyway. And then they found the beautiful apartment with flowers all around it. I don't know why I love that, but I do. Okay, so now there's this basketball player in Minnesota, and he was barely picked up by the league. The reason everybody loves him is because he plays really hard, and he assists in plays, and he makes baskets equal all the time. He's always trying to help the Timberwolves win. So this guy, he was watching a game one night, and he got on YouTube and he said, I will give anybody, if it's their first tattoo, a tattoo for $20. Even if it's their second or third or 40th tattoo. That's the mood I'm in. $20. Come to me and you can have a Naz Reid tattoo. Nazried. Reid. Get it right, Beth. Okay. If you go to Minnesota, you got to talk about this guy, okay? You're going to see this. Everybody's talking about him. I mean, everybody. He's 6'9". He can handle the basketball like a smaller guard, making him a nightmare for defenders. That's what people say. He's got the best attitude. All he wanted to do, he said he would play anywhere out of college, because all he wanted to do was get his mother a car so she could stop riding the bus. Now, that right there, I don't even care if he can make a basket. I want him on the team. I want him winning. Everybody loves him. There is a woman who is 82. She got her first tattoo right across her chest. I don't know how they did it. They probably had to smooth it out. Okay. 82 years old, Naz Reid. So when you get to Minnesota and you're talking, you go to a restaurant or something, just say Naz Reid and you'll get a smile from somebody. You'll probably get everything you want. That is good. Minnesota doesn't have much going on. Everybody loves this guy because he plays 100% every single second. And he's never the best. That is my kind of a fan base. You know? Like seriously, it's the guy who backs up everybody and makes everybody look good. That's how people in Minneapolis feel. They just want to be with a guy who's backing everybody up. So I love him. Okay. Judi Dench, she has a new book out, and it's called Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent. Okay. So I'm reading this lovely article, just lovely, and all of a sudden she goes, because of my eyesight, I can no longer read, but I still love being surrounded by books. Who knew that? No one. She doesn't even tell people her problems. She's so English. She just keeps it all inside. And I love that. So then she says at the very end, okay, she's organizing a literary dinner party. Which 3 writers, dead or alive, do you invite? She says, well, I'm not a very good cook. And remember, I can't see. So I may have to suggest that people eat before they arrive. I would certainly invite Shakespeare. I'd ask him if he had another play up his doublet. Isn't that adorable? That's how these people talk. I'd also like to meet Henrik Ibsen, who I recently discovered that she's related to. She's so humble. Although he might scowl if I served him my version of Norwegian meatballs. Oh, that's cute. Oh, and this is why I love her. I would also invite Billy Connolly. He's written so many books, and he is so funny, and he will make the party a success. I love Billy Connolly, and I don't know where he is, and I don't want to look because I'm a little worried. I mean, he's gone. Okay, so then this is something I have a problem with in the hospital. When people say, is it a 1 to 10 on a pain scale? So this guy's writing, and he's got his little boy, and his little boy, his shoulder's been hurt, and they're in the emergency room, and the doctor says, so give me a number of pain from 1 to 10. He says 6. And then he goes, 6.5. And his father looks at him and he goes, okay, if it's a 6.5, what's a 6? And this little boy goes, a 6 is getting hit by a car that's going 80 miles an hour. I was like, wow, this whole disconnect between the two of them, there was no meeting of the minds. What's a 10? I'm dead, Dad. So, see, the thing is, free though he was to think that way, he had twisted a subjective tool into something that made sense to him and to nobody else on the planet, rendering it unfit for its sole purpose, evaluating pain. That's what I say. How can you know? You know, I even think you can do this with love. Like when somebody says, I love you, I want to go on a scale of 1 to 10. 5 being, you take a Nerf bullet for me, and 10 being you take an actual bullet for me. Like, what is love? What is everything? We use these words, we throw them around, but that's why I hate that pain scale. And then I want to be polite and say it's less pain so I don't look like a pain in the neck. We should get rid of that. Okay, this week, a really romantic story about a romance novelist. So this man is a romance novelist, and he's divorced and he's sad. And he hears about this woman who has cerebral palsy who's 18 years younger. Okay, we'll let that go. Let's just let that go. And he writes a book about her story because she's a fighter. They said she wouldn't walk, she can walk, talk, everything. She goes to school, and she just ran in a 5-mile marathon with cerebral palsy. So he wrote a book about her without even knowing her. And he called the book Kick to the Curb. And he got her on Facebook, and he said, would you read it for me? I mean, this is the wild way to meet somebody. She said, sure. She reads the book, and she said it was uncanny how accurately he captured her. They started talking. They got into a big romance. The minute they got married, everything fell apart. She found out she couldn't have children, and her mother died, his father died, everybody was just falling. He goes into a big depression. He can't write anymore. But he looks at her and he goes, you know what? Why do you listen to what doctors are saying? Every single thing that doctors have said about you is a lie. You have always, always proven them wrong. And so she got pregnant, and she had the baby. And now they're perfectly happy, and this is a really cute baby. She said this one thing, though. So her problem when she got the baby, and she had the husband who loved her so much, and she never thought she'd have any of those things. She said the first year when her son was born flashed by. She was a parent and it felt good, but she said it was scary, because when your life is filled with so much trauma, when you have cerebral palsy or something, you have to fight every single day, that you experience joy very, very differently, because you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. So that's her mission in life, is to get that out of the way, that boulder, that block, that huge problem that is keeping her from experiencing happiness. And I swear that's true. If you haven't been raised in Disneyland, or, Mary Poppins wasn't your mother, you have a hard time believing that you should have love and you should have happiness. I went through that. I totally went through that. But she went through it big time. And so she is working every day, all day, trying to get to the point where she can just relax and enjoy it. I love that story. I never thought about it. So then, back to Katharine Hepburn. No Spencer Tracy in this one. But in this neighborhood in New York, this was from the Wall Street Journal, in this neighborhood in New York, they celebrate Katharine Hepburn's birthday every single year, even though she died in 2003. She lived in this apartment for 60 years in New York, and it had a pretty little garden in front of it. So every single year, they have this beautiful party in the garden, and they play music with a jazz band, and they play songs like Fly Me to the Moon and Cheek to Cheek, and everybody dances around. It's called the Turtle Bay Association, and it's the Dag Hammarskjöld, it's a very German name, Hammarskjöld, oops, a very Danish name, Plaza. Okay, so that's where the party is, and people tell stories. There's a lady named Ethel Bendov, and she's only 89, and she is a retired accountant, but she remembers one cold day years ago when Catherine was like in her early 90s. Okay, that's what you say when it's Katharine Hepburn. She saw this woman shoveling snow, and she noticed that she was wearing a very lovely pair of boots. So she went up to her, and she realized it was Katharine Hepburn. Catherine said hello, and then went right back to shoveling. I guess it surprised me to see her doing it, and I never forgot it. But the most surprising part of all was that she went back to shoveling, and she shoveled for another hour and a half the entire sidewalk, because it was there, because someone needed to do it. That's what she told her. I've got to get back to work. Somebody's got to shovel this sidewalk. So that's what she did. So there's a footpath. Oh my gosh. It's lined with stepping stones inscribed with Hepburnisms like, enemies are so stimulating. She loved having enemies. What would I do without enemies? I wouldn't have anything to think. I wouldn't have anywhere to go. I have to make them happy. I have to make them sad. So that's, and then she would say, this was her famous one, sometimes I wonder if men and women really suit each other at all. Perhaps they should just live next door and just visit now and then. Just like Spencer and I. The Philadelphia story, everybody talks about what their favorite movie is. There's a story about how Stephen Sondheim would grouse to everyone and anyone, downstairs, upstairs, in the lobby, in the garden, because Catherine kept threatening to call the police on him because he liked composing. We said he had to compose on the piano in the wee hours of the morning, of the night. Between 11:30 and 3:30 in the morning was when inspiration and the muse would come to him, and then he would finish by saying, she hated it. She hates it. She sees me and she says I'm calling the police. How am I supposed to think? How am I supposed to create? And Catherine says, don't. You've done enough. Broadway will be fine with or without you. Stephen, I need my sleep. So they had a huge fight. Fight after fight after fight. He wouldn't even come out of his apartment until 7:30 at night when she packed it in and never came out. So they had a huge war going on. And I don't think either one of them won. So here's the best news of all. Older workers are in demand because bosses like our work ethic, just like me. You put me in a cubicle with 5,000 Legos, I'll do it. I'll do it. I don't feel like bad about straw and turning it into gold or doing anything like that. I want to be in a cubicle. I want to be alone. I don't want anybody to... I'm afraid I'll make a mistake in the emergency room. It's very complicated, and you have to do everything right. I want to be in the cubicle by myself with 5,000 Legos that I not only have to clean, I have to try. I have to try every Lego piece. Oh my gosh. I mean, 3.5 hours is what it takes, believe me, to do all that. And those little fishies, I've got to get all those cleaned up and connect the dots. All these toys have 5,000 pieces. I've got to clean and dry every single one with this antiseptic stuff. So that's fabulous. I want to, that's my work ethic. Put me in a cell by myself. I'll do it. I will happily do it. I want to have a job. I'm 70. I want to be useful. I want somebody to give me something to do that I can do. I can clean Legos. I never cleaned them in my house. It never occurred to me. But in a hospital, Everything has to be cleaned. Every single thing in the world. And we have to throw out crayons and paper if people have touched them. But Legos, I can do it. So I've got my job, and I can go up and cuddle babies all day long if I want to. Life is good. I'm sane. And I thank that battle axe of a nurse for everything she said for me, everything she did for me. What a pal. Mid-70s, late 70s, whatever she is, she's seen it all. She knows it all. She figured me out before I opened my mouth. She knew exactly who I was. I'm the person for that job. No doubt. She knows what she's looking at. She's been looking at it for over 50 years. She pegged me perfectly. I was so grateful. So, yeah, let her work forever. She knows, and she knows paper. She knows how to put things on paper. She's the queen now. I love it. I love it. So, I'm sane, and I will be back. Thanks.
They fly so high, never reach the sky.